Sebby, Mummy's coming out in a minute. Stop it. Sorry, it's my cat. He wants to get in. Mummy's busy. Mummy's YouTubing. Hello everybody and happy bank holiday weekend. This is my gift to you this bank holiday Monday. I think I said last time that I was running out of ideas. I kind of still am, but there was a few things. I want to have a good rant. I really just want to say what I think. I've seen many other videos on YouTube and they are about people that say weird, crazy, ignorant, messed up stuff to those people with autism, and it's always, well, it's usually an attempt to try and debunk somebody's diagnosis, or it's an attempt to say, but you don't have the condition because XYZ. And I've seen people on YouTube who, like myself, do autistic vlogs. They get people who comment, who say some really horrible things sometimes. Sometimes it's just trolling, but other times it's from people who genuinely don't believe that they're autistic and give long lists and reasons for it. I'm going to say a few things to some of those people right now. My pet hate, my absolute pet peeve about some things that people say to autistic people is this: you don't look autistic. What's an autistic person supposed to look like? Is there an identikit? Are there physical traits that we have to have? Do we have to have specific noses? Do we have to have a type of hairstyle? Do we have to have particular kind of voices? Or do we have to wear uniforms? What the hell are you talking about? You don't look autistic. Do I have to have an A on my forehead to look autistic? I don't remember any kind of health organisation or body ever saying someone with autism will look like this. Or I could be taking it a bit too literally, another autistic trait. Maybe what they're trying to get at is that you don't come across as autistic. But if you're going to say you don't look autistic, that is not the right thing to say to somebody with autism, not just because it's a ridiculous statement to make, but people with autism do take things literally. And if you say to somebody you don't look autistic, they're not going to interpret that as somebody possibly meaning you don't come across as autistic. So maybe that is a better statement to make. You don't come across as autistic. Now, people like myself who have a diagnosis, we have been through a long process to get there. We have to have appointments with health professionals. We have to fill in shed ton of forms. You go through a long procedure for certain things, and psychologists are trained, highly trained, to a very high standard to look for all these different subtle signs, and they know what the criteria is. And if you're someone who's going to comment on a YouTube video and explain why you don't think somebody's autistic, I'm going to ask you one question. Are you a clinical psychologist? If the answer to that is no, don't bother. Seriously, don't bother. Because it's not up to you to determine whether somebody has a medical condition or not. You have to meet a specific diagnostic criteria. If you can diagnose somebody from their YouTube video, which quite a lot of people who watch YouTube videos think that that's possible for some reason, it would save psychologists and the NHS a shed ton of money. It really, really would. And I tell you, if that were at all possible, they'd have snapped it up already. And there are people out there who think they can be clever and just list loads and loads of criteria about autism and say you don't have it because this and this. How are you going to get that from a YouTube video? It doesn't show you exactly what that person is in their everyday lives, and there are certain things that you will not see. I mentioned on my previous videos about people with autism having difficulties with heights and depth perception, coordination, being able to do things with the hands, like dexterity sometimes is a little bit hit and miss, left and right, which a lot of time is actually given a separate diagnosis of dyspraxia. People with autism can have learning difficulties. One other thing that makes me laugh sometimes, and someone actually did say this to me a few weeks ago, they go, yeah, insert family member relation is autistic, so I do know what it's all about. Just because you know somebody with autism or a few people with autism doesn't mean that that makes you an expert. Don't forget, it's to do with the physical makeup and the wiring of the brain, and everyone has a different brain. Somebody actually once did say this to me a few years ago. They gave me a hug when I wasn't very happy about something. I was crying over something, and I had already told her about my autism, and she said, look, you're not autistic because you would not let me touch you otherwise. People tend to think that autistic people are going to be touch phobic. I am comfortable being physically tactile with people who I am comfortable with. And sometimes even if somebody who I'm comfortable with comes over and puts their hand on my shoulder, it can make me jump out of my skin. Again, it does that for a lot of people, but for me it's extreme. It's physically painful, and sometimes I have known to verbally lash out at somebody who I love and respect because what they've done unintentionally has really, really caused me physical pain. And it's a sensory issue. Many people with autism have issues with their senses, and I don't like to be touched for that reason, but I like being the person who instigates the physical affection. So if I am in the mood for a cuddle or whatever, I have to be the one initiating it. And if somebody offers me a hug, that is a lot better than coming up and just giving me a hug, because that will not always be welcome for me. You're far too intelligent. Intelligence has nothing to do with whether you have a neurological condition or not. A lot of people on the spectrum are actually above average intelligence and can and do use their intelligence to overcome some of the barriers, specifically around socializing, that autism presents. But that doesn't mean that they can just push autism away and then prevail over it and then be fine with it. It just means that they know their way around an obstacle. The autistic person has developed a sense of how they can get around something, so they can sometimes get to the same conclusion but via a different route. One person said to me once that they thought that they were autistic but didn't want to go for a diagnosis because they said that they were too intelligent. And I said to them, actually, that doesn't have any impact whatsoever on the diagnosis. In my own diagnostic papers, the psychologist described me as being highly intelligent, and a lot of people have said that to me my whole life, said that you're very intelligent, there's no reason at all why you can't do certain things. For me, the word intelligence has to have a question mark next to it. If you're someone who follows Stephen Hawking a lot, he once said that intelligence is the ability to adapt to change. I can't adapt to change very well, and yet people are quite happy to label me as being highly intelligent. Maybe I am, maybe I'm not. But I don't really care, to be honest, because to be intelligent is not something that you can judge somebody's virtues on. Even 30 years ago, intelligence was seen as a mark of being competent, being capable, being neurotypical. If you were intelligent, observant, and you had good verbal abilities, there was nothing wrong with you, because people believed that intelligence meant that you were normal. That is not the case. People with neurological conditions or learning difficulties were seen as stupid and incapable of doing things. That is just simply not the case. It's discriminatory. It's absolutely horrible. I think we as human beings have survived and we have evolved based on our intellect. But it's also the snake that's eating its own tail. It's, I think I've said that right. We tend to sort of be so too intelligent for our own good sometimes. And we have tried to shy away a lot from the whole Darwinian survival of the fittest. We no longer cull off the weaker members of the group so the stronger members prevail. We have developed compassion for people. I think we have developed so much that we are becoming, we are very much detrimental to ourselves. You're not autistic, it's just a reason for you to be rude to people. Please. If you know someone who's autistic and they do often come across as rude, you will know if they are intentionally being rude. It will be absolutely obvious. Most people can read other people, so if you're somebody who can read people, try and see the difference. Someone who's autistic will be oblivious to how rude they may come across to somebody, or they can be puzzled when somebody reacts a certain way because they said something that came across not as they intended, and it has to take somebody external to explain something to them. They explain where they fell down before they'll realise where it is they didn't quite come across the way that they intended to. Oh, maths must be quite easy for you. You must be really good at maths. No. There are many people who are autistic who are very, very good at maths and very gifted, but then there are neurotypical people who are gifted and good at maths. Just because you're autistic doesn't mean you're suddenly going to be a whiz with numbers and figures and logic. I've said before, I'm good at maths, I enjoy maths. I am not a genius at maths. At the moment in my university work, I'm having to get my head round derivatives and differentiation, and it is absolutely not clicking. Cannot get it whatsoever, and what's worse, is part of the exam. I've heard people say this as well, which really annoys me. They say, and I've seen it in YouTube comments, autism, or most of autism, is bullshit. Again, are you a medical professional? No. Because if you were, you'd know it's not bullshit. And if medical professionals, if the NHS and other health organisations are saying that this is a real condition, more and more people are being diagnosed because medicine and knowledge about human behaviour has come on leaps and bounds since the 1980s. And we know a lot more about how people are and reasons why people behave the way that they do, why they see things the way they do, why certain things are problematic for them and yet they excel in other areas. We know why a lot more now. Ignorance is one of the biggest contenders that we have when it comes to dealing with medical things and personal issues, because a lot of the time we're very quick to come to a conclusion ourselves and say something is something, and trying to state our opinions as fact. Opinions are not fact. Just because it's your opinion that autism is rubbish or that I'm not autistic, that's your opinion, it's not a fact. It's a fact when a medical professional diagnoses me because they have explored my symptoms in line with the diagnostic criteria, and that makes it fact. If I were friends with someone who said that they were asthmatic, but I never once saw them with their asthma pump, I never once saw them out of breath or displaying any asthma symptoms or having an asthma attack, who am I to say that person is an asthmatic just because I don't see it myself? If they've been diagnosed, they've been diagnosed. That's it. If they have a condition, they have a condition. It may not be causing them a huge detriment to their lives, but it's always there, and it's always something to bear in mind. A friend of mine actually was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, and their manager didn't believe them, even though they had proof from their doctor that they had it. So a lot of the time we're very quick to dismiss doctors. Misdiagnoses do happen. Sometimes they say things or they try and educate us and it's met with a lot of incredulity. It's met with a lot of skepticism, which is fine. We're meant to be skeptical and incredulous and want to question things, but that doesn't mean that we should say, no, something is something because I think it is. Thoughts and opinions are not the same as confirmed facts. Please recognise the difference. I know you've got autism, but there's no reason at all why you can't be like everyone else and do what everyone else does. We do have limitations, and there are certain things. It's not a case of I can't do that because I'm autistic. It's a case of it's so difficult to the point that it's crippling, and especially if you don't understand what's expected of you, or you're frustrated because people are trying to explain it to you in layman's terms and you don't understand exactly what they're trying to say, or a neurotypical may be able to pick something up or in subtle cues or be able to understand what people mean as opposed to what they say, and there you are, someone who takes things very, very literally, asks someone to explain, and you get spoken down to like you're stupid. I remember there was somebody I worked with who knew that I didn't understand jokes, who knew that I took things literally, and he would make jokes in front of me, and I say to him, "What do you mean?" And he'd just laugh and wouldn't tell me what it was. And I ended up speaking to a mutual friend of ours because I just didn't want to confront him. And I said to him, "Can you please have a word with him, because he keeps doing this, it's very, very demeaning, and if he wants to make a joke in front of me, fine, but explain it, and don't laugh at me when I don't understand." And this friend did mention it to this person, and that person did actually apologise to me. But if you're autistic, how come you can do your job? Well, I'm trained to do my job. It's kind of straightforward. There are struggles here and there, but there's no reason at all why I can't do my job. Maybe I need help with certain things. Maybe there's certain things I don't quite get or understand, or where changes are made, I need a little bit more time to adapt and for the changes to embed, especially if I've been doing something a certain way for a long period of time and then it's changed. But other than that, there's no reason to why anyone who's autistic can't do a job. Oh, you're autistic? Oh, it must be so difficult for you. Yes and no. I can do quite a lot of things myself in my life, and many autistic people can. There are certain things that are very, very difficult, and they can be very disheartening and sometimes depressing, especially when it comes to the social side of things, because we as a pack animal, for lack of a better term, we do like to be around other people, and we do like to have comrades and family and those that we can rely on, and autistic people are no different. One thing I would say to people who don't believe autism or is a huge problem amongst people, it's the same thing that I say to people who think evolution is a myth. Go and prove it, because if you can prove it, you can claim a Nobel Prize and a heck of a lot of money, because if you can, you could revolutionise science, medical science and evolutionary biology. By all means, go claim your Nobel Prize. Autistic? Nah, you're just depressed. Go see a doctor, you'll be fine. Have you ever tried counselling? That might be an idea. It's a neurological condition. It is not a mental health condition. You can't counsel autism out of someone. Do you take medication for it? I know some people with ADHD can take Ritalin, but ADHD isn't the same as autism. It can be part of it, but it isn't the same. So if anyone is thinking of Ritalin when they think of autism, it's not the same. Is there anything they can do? They could probably add a few cords and leads into my brain to try and link it up properly, maybe. No, there isn't. Doesn't work like that, I'm afraid. Neurological, not mental health. That is the difference. You can't use your autism as an excuse for your behaviour. It's just not right. Look, I know that. Most people know that. I don't know what part of me is autistic and what part of me isn't. It's just me. It's just one entity. I can't say I can't do that because I'm autistic. I can't say I'm not comfortable because I'm autistic. I will just say I don't feel I can do that, or I will say I'm not comfortable. I won't mention the autism word. I have known people that have used their autism as an excuse for many different things, or openly said I can't do or whatever they've said, and then finish the sentence with because of my autism. It may well be the reason why. It could be the factor. But even if it is, it's not a good idea to use that as a get out of jail free card. It isn't a good idea to use it as an excuse, because people will get sick of it, or they will start to disbelieve you. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. I would really love it if you could please post something down below if you maybe are somebody who's autistic or know someone who's autistic, and tell me the most bizarre thing somebody's actually said, or think of the most bizarre thing that you could say and post it below. I haven't had any questions either. I really want some questions. Otherwise, what's the point of me doing this? By the time more people see this, it would have been ages after I've posted it. But always private message me if you want, comment if you want. I will also link my Twitter account below. Come meet me on Twitter. I will also link my blog, because I've started blogging as well. I've also put some things in there about writing as well. So kind of a bit eclectic, but mostly it's going to be about autism, and I've called it I Don't Belong on This Planet because that's exactly sometimes how it feels when you're someone who is different to the vast majority. So, hope you have enjoyed it. Sorry for being so ranty. I just had a lot of things to get off my chest. I'm going to have to really heavily edit this video because I've been ranting for about an hour. But sometimes I've been sitting there thinking, what the hell do I say next? Because I have not planned this video at all. It's just going to be me ranting, and I think sometimes that's the best thing. Everything that comes out your mouth is spur of the moment and fresh. Yay! Bye!